So sometimes you take a photo and you start editing it, you think, it's not quite got the pop, it's not quite what I was after when I took this. And you might see like some different things in your head, even based off of like artwork. You think this would be really cool to put in there. So how can we do that? Well, yes, you could go down some generative AI routes and things like that, but we can also use overlays and add certain things into our images just to really help them, make them pop out a bit more, give them that vibe that they actually deserve. So if we take a photo like this, and I've done an edit up on it using one of my dark academia presets as a base, and I quite like it, but it's just a bit underwhelming. Now, I've not done any masking at the minute, and I will do some masking to, you know, really brighten this bit out in here and darken, but it felt like before I got into that, there's a golden opportunity here to do some overlay work and just give it compositionally something different. So how can we do this then? Well, we need, first of all, a place to run. Now, you can go overboard with this type of thing too. You can end up putting too many overlays in, and this just starts to look artificial really quickly. Likewise, if you put them in and you get like the transparency a little bit off on them, again, it starts to look artificial. So it's finding that balance of, do you want it to look more like over-edited artwork, or do you want it to be like a subtle thing to add in just to help the composition? Choice is really yours there. With this image, what I'm envisioning is actually, can I get some God rays or light rays just coming through this arch, as we have our light source behind here already. So it just amplifies what's already there. And that's something else to think about here. If we're introducing stuff like light rays, for instance, composition has got to make sense. So we know there's a light source here, and it makes sense for light to come out of this. And again, it's something that you might see in artwork, see in films, so it makes a bit of sense. We could also throw some things like smoke over landscape images, you know, additional clouds. We can throw dust particles. There's a lot of different stuff we can go in there, but the process is pretty much the same. So first of all, you need a place to find all of these, and the one that I use most is Invato Elements, and I'll pop a link down in the description for you. But within here, you're able to find in the graphics section loads and loads of different types of overlays, but also brushes too. So if you are a big fan of Photoshop and use it quite a lot, this is great for brushes. So you don't just have to put overlays in it. We can make new layers, and we can add cloud brushes in, add a bit more atmosphere, you know, headlights to cars. We can do a lot of stuff with this, but remember, don't go too far. So if I go into here and search light rays, and I want to filter it more down to look at the graphics side of things. So if I go into graphics and I go on light rays, and you can see the type of light rays, and we can download lots of different packs in here. We can get flares as well. There's a whole range, and it's about going through and finding the stuff that is going to work best on what you're doing. So certainly for live music photography, some lamp overlays is something I use quite often when maybe I've missed it and I want to get that more atmosphere. But really for what we're doing here, I'm thinking of stuff like sunlight shining overlays, or light effect grains. You know, and this type of thing would be really nice to have streaming through. Yes, we can make them ourselves in Photoshop with brushes as well. It's really up to you. I like using the overlays just because it saves a bit of time. Also, I might want to use some things like dust particles as well for overlays. And you can see what these would sort of look like here. It's just little dust particles that sit over the top. So you can be as creative as you want. So now that we've got our packs, let's go back to our image. So I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to go over and edit in Adobe Photoshop. I'm also going to go and load in my two things, which is some dust particles and my light rays. So I've got my two in here then. So I'm going to grab my light ray and come across to my image, and I'm just going to paste this over the top. But you'll see we've got that black background. So if we come over here and we go to screen, we can also make folders. We do pass through as well. But for today with this, I'm just going to do screen. You can see that gets rid of that black background for us. And essentially, I'm going to then work on just compositionally placing this in there. And actually, it's done a pretty good job of fitting around this already, which is really nice. But we can sort of go in and go onto the warp a bit more. And that's just if I want to pull it out towards the sides. So make it fit within your composition. Once it's warped and in place and you're all happy, you can click enter. And you can see that there's still a little bit at the top here that I think needs to change. So I'm just going to drag that up. Now, I'm not too fussed about this as well, but what we can also do is go down and mask this, and then we can take sort of a soft brush. And I'm just thinking at the top here, because we don't want our light to be creeping over and above here. So what I'm going to do is flick that across, and I'm just going to paint over this. And it's just making sure that any of that light is not leaking on top. So again, we take the time, we be detailed with it. It's okay for it to leak across this one because that's where our light's coming through, and we can see that's reflected with how it actually hits the pillar. But this one here, it makes no sense for us to have it. So I would just go around there and really make sure I've done that. And I would do that across all of these other bits as well, just to be sure. So that looks nice, but still maybe a little bit artificial, but that's where we can now look at our transparency, and we can lower our transparency just so it's a bit more subtle. And we just find the right balance of it there. You might be looking at thinking, well, the color's a bit off and things, that's fine. That's where I'm going to do a bit of masking later. So I could still take this here, I could create a solid color over the top. And again, just blend those two together, maybe some yellow, but I'm gonna do the masking and get more warmth in on this there. Now I could double up this if I want and do a similar thing and pull this across, and I could have multiple light rays coming in now. So again, I find where that sits, match it with that, kind of choose my size on there, mask it, and then just paint out that bit where it's sneaking across. And normally I'd be a lot more detailed on this, but just being quick today. And then again, choose what the transparency is like. So that's looking quite nice, how that's like shining through there. So our final one is to take a dust background. And again, exactly the same process with this. I'm gonna take my dust background, put it across the entire image there. Filter it across, and you can see we get these nice little sort of specks. Again, just pull the transparency down. Now, what I would usually do when I'm dealing with dust things is I would, again, mask it, but instead of using a soft brush, I would use like a grungy brush or some sort of texture brush and go in with that as an eraser. So again, I get a little bit more of a splatter. But normally if I'm doing dust, to be honest, I would just get some dust brushes and I would put them in manually instead of having it all over like this. But again, for a time saver today. But the process will be the same. You can make a new layer, add that on, and then you've got your dust. But for today, we will just keep that as it is. So I then hit Command and Save once I'm happy with that, and that will take me back over into Lightroom. Now remember that you can go overboard quite quickly with this. You can see that it is about still making it seem as natural as possible. And there's some extra work I would do for this, but same advice I give always, which is step away from the computer, come back, look at it again with fresh eyes and think, does that still look what I'm trying to get out of this? Maybe you're after kind of a more artwork and over edited or like matte painting, then these work very well. Especially when you're doing matte painting stuff and you're doing a lot of photo bashing or combinations there. The overlays is often the glue. It can just help pull everything together. So we're going to come back over into Lightroom, and you can see we've now got our new file. We've got that nice bit of dust that's going on in there. We've got some light rays or God rays coming out as well. So this is where I will now go over into my masking and just try and blend things a bit more. So definitely what I want first of all is a vignette, and I'm just going to create a radial gradient, pull it across like that, and I'm going to invert it. And I'm really just looking at hitting those darker points in the image for this. So I'm going to pull that down quite aggressively because I do want it to be moody and pull attention into that center there. A bit less contrast. And then same thing again, I'm going to pull a radial gradient, which will work here because we do want a little bit of an overbleed of light kind of on that archway. But I'm going to pull this very similar sort of direction and shape. And this is going to be brightened, but also add in a bit of warmth. So we see bring a bit of brightness into there, but we're going to boost the warmth as well. And that is the bit where suddenly we start to get a little bit of that glue coming in. We get that nice warmth in there. And with stuff like this, it is all about light. And I'm just going to take even one more kind of brush and just brush around that top bit there. Whenever I'm doing light source, I never like to settle with just one. I like to kind of layer them on top, kind of like big one, then smaller one, then sometimes even smaller one on top of that. And just helps keep that top bit bright. And again, we just increase our warmth slightly more there. Now with this type of one, I would definitely go in with a brush, do a bit of dodging and burning. And because we've got a lot of pillars here, I would think about where I'm going round and just sort of dodging and burning these darker shadow bits, especially along the bottoms of the pillars here. Look at what's in the background as well. And again, thinking about where the light source is coming across here, just really like dodging and burning the top bits or any bits across there. And it really does help just to bring that extra bit out. I think right up at the top. And on the top of the arch too. So take your time with this, you know, be nice and detailed. It really does make all the difference with all the different masking that you can do, but just taking some time, especially with this sort of overlays, do that bit of dodging and burning. It's again that believability that helps glue all of this together. So it's very quick and rushed, but I would do a similar thing with highlights as well. You can see we're starting to get that nice like matte painted style come out of this now. So quick before and after on that there. You can see that we've now put our overlays in, and just by doing that bit of masking we can help glue it together and we get our, for now, final image. Put those side by side. So our overlays do make a massive difference when we think of for the original that we got here versus our edited one. It's an opportunity where actually lightways do work here, but we've just got to choose them carefully. Without it, maybe the photo's a little bit more dull. Maybe it was fine how it is with a bit of masking, but this is the fun thing about photography. This is the fun thing about your edits. You can choose what you want to do. You might look at that and not like that. Like, that's fine. You choose what you want to do with this. So I'd highly recommend checking out Invato elements below. You'll get not just overlays, but you'll find a lot of brushes on there, a lot of backgrounds as well. And if it's the first time you're looking at this kind of thing, you'll probably not be blown away, but your creative mind will probably wander a lot with all the different things you can do, which is why I'm just saying, like, pull yourself back in and really think about the image. Think about, one, does it need it? Two, how much does it need? Like, so only use it to aid the composition of the image, to get the story across that you want to tell in the image. Don't just do it for the sake of doing it. So I hope you find that useful. Do all the usual stuff, and remember you can check out my presets down below. Free few packs for you to download there, and I'll see you in the next one.